there's a bigger issue here. Just because a group of people belong to the Federation, it does not mean that they are saints. The trouble is Earth. On Earth, there is no poverty, no crime, no war. You look out the window of Starfleet headquarters and you see paradise. Well, it's easy to be a saint in paradise. Out there, all the problems haven't been solved yet. Out there are no saints, just people. Angry, scared, determined people who are going to do whatever it takes to survive.
What I want to know is, out of all the stories you told me, which ones were true and which ones weren't?
My dear doctor, they're all true.
Even the lies?
Especially the lies.
On behalf of the Bajoran government
And the Promenade Merchants Association,
I officially welcome you to Deep Space Nine.
Welcome back to Especially the Lies, a Deep Space Nine podcast, where we are watching through all of Star Trek Deep Space Nine week to week. We are currently in Season 3, and just have hit about the midway point and are ready to talk about the episode Life Support. But before we do that, we normally like to read reviews on this show, and I have found another one of our reviews from overseas. This one comes to us from the Netherlands, and I'm kind of glad there's a few people missing from tonight's show, considering I could see some of them going very different directions with that. But this one is from Artsapat. It's from January, and it says, "Been following the antics of this group of people since the start of the podcast discussing Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I found them when I was doing my own rewatch of Babylon 5, another incredible show, found Grey 17, and saw they were a few episodes behind me. Followed along and came over when they started this series. Through thick and thin, through fortune and devastating loss, I miss Scott. Their combination of newbies, even new to the genre, and prophets makes this reviews fresh and the discussions lively, compared to listening to people who have loved and known the show or franchise for years. They do a spoiler-free review and discussion, followed by a spoiler section for those that know what's coming. But be warned, they do go off the rails quite often, and to be fair, those are the moments they really shine. Hey, this person likes when we go batshit. With their own special set of weirdness, we're not that weird, and running gags, I regularly cackle out loud, which makes for some awkward moments while shopping. Listeners, we have told you we are not the show to listen to in public. We have warned you repeatedly not to do that. With the amount of smut, shipping, and sometimes open innuendos, I'm honestly surprised nobody mentioned the third great sci-fi show of the 90s yet, Farscape. Oh, we have. We're just afraid to go there. Great listen. Go check it out. Thank you, Artsapat. We hope you're still with us and enjoying the show.
I mean, we're going to run out of DS9 eventually, so...
Eventually we'll run out.
I've tried to watch Farscape, and that would be an interesting podcast show.
It would. It has been a very long time since I have watched it. But again, we do appreciate reviews. If you hop on your podcast app of choice, Apple is the one that actually gets us the most leverage from reviews. And don't just give us the stars. Leave us a review and we will read it here on the show.
Probably.
Maybe. Oh, it depends. Oh, no, we even hate read. We read the ones that hate us, too, because we have fun with those. I am your host, Blake, and with me is...
Christopher.
Emily.
And Mike.
And you'll notice we're missing a few people this week, and damned if we know where they are.
We know where some of them are.
Well, yeah, we know where some of them are.
It's that time of year where, like, everybody gets really sick at the same time, or really sick of showing up to work, so they have to pretend.
You know, who hasn't used a little PTO for
Lord
questionable
knows.
reasons. So, those who've been following, we've had some pretty fun synopsises lately. Well, at least on this show. If you're listening to our Starfleet Academy show and the ones Kevin's been coming up with, we can't make that interesting. There's just nothing we can do there. We're not nearly as interesting as his browsing history and For You page. But Christopher, I believe you have a synopsis for this one.
Computer. Play the Bitches Back by Elton John. Tywin directs Bashir and Bareil in the DS9 production of Frankenstein. And Lisa Turtle realizes she'd rather hang out at Max's with Screech and Zach than have Klingon food with Nog and Jake.
Outstanding.
Nicely done. We would play the song, but I don't want to get us copyright hit.
No.
So normally we start off with our newbies' first impressions, and we have one. So,
Let's hear it.
please give us all of our newbies' first impressions, please.
I enjoyed this more than I thought I would. Kai Wynn is awful, but she is great at being awful. So every time I see her on screen, I kind of want to punch her in the face. Thanks, Emily.
You're welcome.
I also just love like when she is on this because she's so kind of just evil. The interaction between Nog and Jake when after the blow up at the restaurant, when they're working through everything and talking about their differences and realizing that they can still be friends even though they're from different cultures. I thought that was really good. So while not something that I would probably seek out every time, this was a good episode. It's not the best of the season, but it's certainly not the worst.
Okay, now what do you think Jessi's first impressions would be? You're the only one here, so you can make up whatever in the hell you want for the rest of them.
This is your chance to speak for Jessi. And we know she doesn't listen to the show. She's told us this, so she'll never hear what you said.
Yep.
But it was fine.
Didn't hate
I don't
it.
know. Yeah, didn't hate it. It was fine.
He's still
Nicole
afraid of
just
her,
finished-
so we can't go that far.
No, she's probably throwing a party because Barial died.
Nicole just finished watching it like 5 minutes ago. I didn't really connect to the broader series as a whole, and Chris just wanted to see more continuity, more plot.
That's perfect.
Spot on. We just nailed all of our newbies' first impressions right there. So let's switch over and get our Prophet's first impressions on this one, and let's start with Mike.
Oh no. I was not looking forward to this episode. I find myself more and more feeling like I lied on my resume and I should have just called myself a newbie because my memory is absolutely shit. But like, yeah, so I wasn't real excited about this one, but I have to admit that I watched it and there were a lot of things about it that I had kind of forgotten that made it a lot better, a lot more enjoyable of a watch, and can dig into the meat of it because this is first impressions, right? But like, I was initially annoyed by the Jake and Nog storyline, and it ended up kind of being a highlight of the episode for me in a big way. And the other side of it was actually really surprising because there were things I expected to happen that didn't. And again, it's because my memory is really poor. And there were things that I fully expected to happen and I wasn't disappointed on. So overall, it's not necessarily an episode that I'm going to seek out every time I want to speed run DS9, but it is a good episode. I have no real qualms with it.
Emily.
I like this episode. I like that Wynn comes back. We haven't seen her in a while, and she is up to her fucking shenanigans again. And the audacity with which she tells Cisco that she was chosen by the prophets. No, bitch, you weren't. You manipulated a situation. But good on you for being able to keep a straight face while that came out of your mouth. It's impressive. Bashir's arguments with Wynn and Kira about the limits of treatment and at what point do you just stop because you can't replace everything in a human body with machines or fake organs or something and assume they're going to be the same person, especially when it comes to the brain. You could tell after they did the partial replacement that he wasn't, the memories were there, but he wasn't who he used to be, obviously. And the Jake and Nog storyline was a little bit strange, but it was interesting for Cisco to admit, I know I said you guys could never be friends, but I was wrong. It's not often parents will admit that. Like, hey, I was in fact wrong. That was a bad judgment call on my part or whatever. And now we're having a discussion about that. So from a parenting standpoint, I really liked it. The actual date scene was painful to watch because I wanted to punch him in the face. And I am glad that I don't think I've ever had a date quite that terrible.
We should keep a running tally of the number of people, Emily, that you want to punch in the face off of these shows.
Look, there's probably more on B5 than there is DS9. Byron counts for about 5.
You did spend most of season 5 wanting to just slug him.
can
Yes.
wonder if we can feed all of our episodes into AI and have it put together like a smash cut of a montage of Emily threatening to punch people in the face.
Ooh. I now have a new side quest to go play with Chat GPT later. Side quest unlocked. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
Yep.
feed all our voices into AI so it can replace us or do shit and claim to be us.
Or what it's going to
Woohoo!
do is send me references for local psychiatric care.
Those might be helpful. I don't know if you have a good therapist right now. You might need one.
With this show and group of people, yes.
This is how we fight back. Like,
We make ChatGPT lose its mind by listening to our fuckery.
I was gonna say, did you guys see the story? Sorry, it's already off topic.
Who cares? There's four of us.
There's a story, I forget which one of the AI giants it was, but they had to do an emergency update and push specific commands to their model to tell it to stop talking about goblins. Because apparently whatever content it had ingested and whatever conversations came up, it just started randomly talking about goblins to people out of context.
Okay.
And I just can't help but feel like something like that would probably happen if it listened to all of our episodes.
I'm thinking if we made it listen to all of our episodes, we'll all of a sudden understand what happened to set off Skynet in Terminator.
It'll get mad at Jessi.
Just randomly talks about buttholes. And...
Yeah. Someone Chat GPTs their term paper, some poor kid in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to use Chat GPT. Buttholes.
Whatever. As long as the first Terminator that it sends back in time goes after whoever thought it was a good idea to have people stand outside of Culver's and Chick-fil-A and take your order instead of letting you just pull up to the menu, I'm okay with it.
You'll be okay with that.
Yeah.
Hey, look, Chat GPT putting in random like buttholes in people's term paper isn't gonna be that. I don't think it's that far off from like it. Look, I wrote a term paper and
You put
I
buttholes
did not
in it?
edit. No, I put boobies in it.
I was gonna say, I feel like Scott has a story about that too.
I was going to say, did you copy Scott's term paper?
No, Scott read my term paper and said, "Did you edit this?" And I said, "No, why?" He said, "Because in the middle of the sentence, you just write boobs."
It is on brand that Scott would be the one to notice that, though.
It's true. That's what it was. Scott wrote one that was it was a history paper about the plague, and his entire paper called it the plaque.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I better get us somewhat back on topic here. And
yeah.
And I will say with this one, I did not hate this one this time as much as I remembered hating this episode. I don't know why that is. Like, this has never been a favorite episode, but yeah, I actually found I did not hate this one nearly as much as what I have previously. Louise Fletcher, Kai Wynn, is always phenomenal. I don't care when she shows up. And the fact she gets such a reaction from people is exactly why she's fantastic. She makes you hate her.
She has this vibe or demeanor about her that's almost otherworldly, and just how disconnected from everyone else's reality and perception of her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like everything she says has an unspoken comma bitch at the end of the sentence, but you don't pick up on it. Like
the condescension is so thick,
but
people don't seem to notice it around her, and it's so good how she does it, how she's so hateable.
She just lives in her own reality, and it's close enough that she interacts with people seamlessly, but you can just tell that she's way up her own butt like the whole time.
So what is it that made Blake, you and Mike, I mean, you've watched this before, so what do you think was the difference between watching it this time and watching it another time, or previously, that you guys liked it better?
That's a fine question, Christopher, and I've been trying to figure it out. For me, there are a couple things. Having forgotten what happened in the episode, I kept waiting for the big Kai Wynn backstab moment to come. And maybe this is going to be a point of conversation, or maybe it won't. It was ultimately revealed that she had a bit of an ulterior motive in having Bareil be a part of the negotiations, but I also think that it was really heavily balanced out by them showing just how incapable of conducting the good negotiations that she was, and that she genuinely knew that she needed Barile. So, like, in as much as I kept waiting for the big backstab to happen, I don't really feel like it did. I feel like she was honestly in survival mode and wasn't really being her usual nefarious, shitty self. And so that to me was a big surprise. And I thought the whole thing about the peace talks was also a point that I completely forgot. And that was kind of also a big thrilling surprise to me in the episode, even though it did feel a little bit out of place. And we can talk about that more. But the other side of it is the Jake and Nog thing, which initially I thought was cheesy. By the end of the episode, I really liked it. To be perfectly honest, my best explanation is that it was a welcome juxtaposition against the times that we're currently living in. It's why I probably took to it.
I would say similar, possibly the times. I did like the Jake and Nog piece, but I frequently, when I've done rewatches of this series, I will skip this one. Like this will be one of the ones I'm like, yeah, nope, not today, and skip over it. But since we're doing this show and we're watching it week to week, considering how many years it's been since I probably sat down and like properly watched this and not had it on in the background or just skipped it altogether, I think there's a lot of nuance in this episode that you miss, and that as young as I would have been the first time through, I wouldn't have got. But watching it the way we are, we went from a very heavy episode last week to one that's a little, in some ways lighter and in some ways not with this episode. And I think paying attention to that nuance this time of it, like that piece of catching that Kai Wynn had that ulterior motive. Because, yeah, Bashir called her on it, but never came out and like explicitly flashed it across the screen. And I think those little pieces like that you just pick up on now that you watch it back. And even the Jake and Nog piece with the relationship between those two and getting into the differences, and you start to see the two of them in a different light with their friendship. You see Cisco even going back from when his first views on them being friends to, nope, I was wrong. And you get those pieces. So I think for me, that's what has changed my perspective on it over time.
Emily, has your opinion of it changed at all, or?
I don't remember disliking this episode. It's a Kai Wynn episode, so that was always going to be an episode I would like to watch, just because even if I don't like her acting is just so fantastic, and she does so well with Wynn that there's usually something to pick up from what she's saying or what she's doing. So in this particular episode, we know she manipulated her way into becoming Kai. We know that. And now she's figuring out she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing to a big degree, really, because they're having these negotiations and she doesn't know the history. She doesn't know what Barile's doing. He's been the one who initiated the negotiations. He's been the one actually putting in the work. And it's interesting to watch her try to navigate not showing that much weakness that she knows is there. And I just always find her character has so much nuance. I like it. And I did think it was always fun to see Lisa Turtle show up because I was a Saved by the Bell person. Zach Morris is a dick, but I love Saved by the Bell.
I thought I was,
Yeah.
and I watched this whole episode and didn't pick up on who she was until I pulled up the IMDb after that. Like I saw her name on the IMDb page and I was like, oh, that's a name that I should know for some reason. Like,
Yeah, I saw her, I recognize, I was like, that voice is very familiar. And then I saw her name. I'm like, it's Lisa Turtle.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I doubt they're going to bring back, but I hope they do, because I have a feeling that she was just a one-off character and she walked away from that date. And look, I don't think I would give Jake a second chance if that's your friend, right?
Yeah, I don't think after that date you're coming back.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think one of the other reasons why this episode isn't as bad as some of other episodes in general is that there are a lot of episodes with Bashir where he comes across as incompetent or kind of doofy, but this is not one of those episodes. So I think it takes that level of irritation out of it, which also makes it more watchable.
Mm-hmm.
that's a really good point too, actually. There have been several episodes, even just recently, where Bashir has been endearing himself to me a lot more as a character, and this was
Mhm.
definitely one of them. When they take doofy Bashir out and put in serious, compassionate, professional Bashir, who's passionate about protecting people and taking care of people, I really like a lot.
Yeah, moral Bashir over Playboy Bashir is such a better character.
He can be fun on the other mode, but up until now I feel like it's been uneven because he goes back and forth from being the kind of whimsical flake who pesters O'Brien and has a fun love-hate relationship with his best friend, but other times when he's just plain stupid and almost a little creepy.
Mhm.
Like,
And we've brought this up before, and I think part of it is if you read some of the background and they talk about the original series Bible for DS9, Sisko, there was pages of background on Benjamin Sisko, his character, who he was, his identity. Kira had all of this information. Like all these characters were developed as far as here's their background, here's a little bit about them. When it came to Bashir, the DS9 Bible literally said a human male in his mid-20s may have an accent depending on casting. That was it.
yeah.
That
Well, it
that
shows.
was the note.
It shows until he's making the character up as he goes, it feels like, with the writer's help. And,
Hmm.
and I think he's settling into that a lot like I think some
Well,
others have done.
David, Alexander Siddig even said at one point they were all scratching their heads because beyond the fact that he was a doctor and the producers basically were like, "Yep, we have to have a doctor on the show." Beyond that,
Yeah.
they didn't know what the hell to do with him, and so I think they're finally figuring that out.
And they make him a young doctor, whereas in a lot of the other treks, the doctors are more experienced. They're
Hmm.
older, so you kind of expect them to be more fleshed out. And I think they could play up the fact that he's young and inexperienced in certain things, but I do think they're finally starting to find that good balance of, hey, this is a competent professional who really knows what he is doing as a doctor. He has this very strong moral code,
Hmm.
but also he wants to be on this adventure as he sees it. And he's a young man who that's always probably going to be part of his character. And it would be fun to play around with. It's just at the beginning, they were so heavy-handed with it that it just kind of made him unlikable.
They leaned into the horn dog aspect of it like
Hmm.
massively and the naive aspect of it, where now you're getting, like you said, the sense that he's a brilliant like physician, a brilliant doctor who is a little bit naive about life maybe and inexperienced in other areas, his state. And the one thing I really appreciate that they've always done is it's such an easy trope to fall into where you have the grizzled old doctor who's seen it all and is
Mhm.
handing out wisdom as fast as pills. Then you have the young guy who's super cocky, and Bashir is not that guy. I really like that they never, like, he's cocky in a way, but they never portray him as being super arrogant. He's a
Hmm.
genuine person. And to that end, like, as much as they made him the big horn dog character in the beginning and kind of played him off of Jadzia a lot, that brief moment in this episode where Dax comes and checks on him as a friend, I thought was really sweet because they've had a
Mhm.
couple of those now. Kind of just portray them as friends.
So, talking about Kai Wynn in this episode and that presence that she normally brings, one of the behind the scenes tidbits on this one. So, Louise Fletcher was actually like very sick, really nasty strain of the flu during the filming of this episode. So, between takes, she would have to go lay down. So, some of that came across on scene, like when you see her in the wardroom and she just looks tired and worn down. That wasn't just acting. She was actually very, very sick. And Ira Stephen Bear commented that she didn't have that nasty little streak that we normally get out of her because she was just so sick, but was still determined to do it and be there. But I think that added to it because you see that worry that like this could all blow up in her face.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Mhm.
She was still Kai Wynn in that very self-absorbed way, but there was something a little bit dull about the edge that's normally on her in this whole episode,
Mhm.
and it
Hmm.
worked.
Yeah, because I
Very
mean,
well.
it she knew that this could blow up in her face and everything that if it went awry, the implications for Bajor were going to be devastating and she was going to lose support. Like I don't know how the system quite works if there's a way to oust a Kai, But I'm sure since she's quite the political figure as well as a spiritual figure, like if she really screws things up big time,
Hmm.
there's going to be, hey, we can't, this is unsustainable. We can't have her. The prophets be damned. And
Prophets will send a
I,
memo. We fucked up.
yeah, you could see that that was kind of weighing on her, the way that she kept going back because she knew that was in over her head. She needed Barial's help, and it was really well done. And I thought that the actor who plays Barial did. He also knew the importance of what was happening of this treaty, and he knew the consequences and was willing to give up his life for it. And I don't think that was really talked enough about, that it was kind of his own agency, that he was willing to go through that and sacrifice himself in order to make sure that this treaty was fair to Bajor.
I actually thought it was interesting that, like, I don't know, if you step back and think about what this is about, this treaty, the peace talks, right? The occupation's over. The two parties have been separated and Starfleet has stepped in. So, like, in a way, that's all the further that any of it ever has to go, right? But
Mhm.
like, I thought it was interesting that not only did Bareil feel like this was a very important pursuit to really mend the fence and bring about a different sort of peace, right? But I thought it was interesting that Kai Wynn also seemed to grasp that concept and be all in on it, because maybe you could read between the lines and say maybe she didn't personally really believe in it, but she knew it would look good on her resume or whatever the case is. It felt like she was genuinely really into it. She was really backing Bareil on that and understood its importance. And I just thought that's interesting, because her character doesn't seem like one who would much care what the Cardassians have to say at this point. I don't know. I don't know how to further articulate it, but if you guys follow me.
I get what you mean.
Hmm.
Yeah, where you wouldn't think she would want to work with them kind of in any capacity, but it does seem like she recognized they do still have some of our people and we want them back. We need them back. We have to get them back.
And it's almost like the opposite of the thing that's easy to, again, not equating
Yeah.
it to the times that we're living in, but it's like, rather than taking what I would consider the low road and being able to point your finger at the Cardassian and try to unify people with hatred and bigotry by having a common bad guy, she's doing the thing Bareil wants to do, and the opposite, like kind of taking the high road, wanting to do real, genuine peace and reparation, returning, ending hostilities permanently to try to move Bajor forward as a whole.
Yeah, and it really did seem like a way to solidify not going back to an occupation point
Yeah.
and trying to maintain it and prevent it recurring in the future, which I mean would be very valuable for her to not have to go through that again for all of them. And
Right.
especially with her as Kai, it would make it challenging to be the religious leader of your group while going through like a rehash of it. And I don't know that she'd be up to the task.
I mean, I think that's kind of the point, is that she's not up to the task.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess here's a question of mine, is what implications is that going to have later on, that she's really not up to the task of being Kai? And how is that going to affect Bajor? Is it going to affect the peace with the Cardassians?
Okay, I will say that I am sad Nicole and Jessi aren't here because they do not like Bareil. They have wanted Bareil and Kier to break up. And in our profit chat, we have been laughing about that because we're like, the dude dies.
Hmm.
Like,
Uh,
what is their response going to be to, it's not a breakup, he dies.
well, I think the fact that he's honestly not in this episode all that much probably helped my opinion
Yeah.
of it a little bit, because I also
He
don't particularly care for the character.
No, but in this particular episode, he was less annoying. I mean, granted,
It's
he
true.
was dying, but he also came across as
Less smarmy.
yes.
So that's part of the reason they switched this story over to Bareil, was they did not like how the relationship was going, and they didn't know really where the character was heading. The producers at this point did not really like Bareil that much. Originally, Well, the story took a few iterations because it was always intended around kind of a Frankenstein type story.
Hmm.
And at one point, it was going to be about a ambassador, and Bashir got the ambassador's brain reanimated, and the producers kind of went, "Okay, we're trying to make this a Bashir show. It's really focused on this ambassador, and no one gives a shit." So then they started thinking, okay, who can we make this story about? And there were rumors at the time that Cole Meany was wanting to leave the show to focus on a film career. To which he responded that he had no interest in leaving the show. He really wanted to stay. So, okay, we're not going to Frankenstein O'Brien. Sorry, Christopher. I know you would have been all over
Come
that one.
on. He's got to be growing on you by now.
So the producers went character shopping and basically decided we're going to off Bareil. But what's funny is they actually got an email, a rather nasty email, after this aired from a group that called themselves the Friends of Vedic Bareil, who angrily protested his death and enclosed pictures of a memorial service that they held for him.
They did not.
Yes.
No.
Yep.
Oh.
That
They
is from the
send
Star
it on
Trek
AOL? What the?
That is from Star Trek Deep Space Nine Companion. No, that actually happened.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That is.
Friends of Bareil at AOL.com.
I'm not surprised, and if my wife ever hears this, she'll maybe be upset that I'm sharing. But she was the captain of the fan club for the Newman fan club from Seinfeld when she back in the day. So it just goes to show you that somebody out there likes every character.
Okay, but I actually understand the Newman one because I also don't like Seinfeld.
No, that whole show's terrible.
Yeah.
All of them are terrible.
Oh my God, they're all terrible
and
people.
it's an awful show.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
If you ever want to get Kevin going, tell him that Friends is problematic and sucks and that you hate Seinfeld. Trust me, it'll be entertainment gold.
I don't.
Oh, I got something to do this weekend. Woohoo!
I have now given Emily purpose for the
I
weekend.
don't know what to say about, but I still enjoy Seinfeld, although I do recognize many problematic aspects of it.
See, that's what we do here on this show. We give people purpose and a mission.
All right. I'm making a sticky note to myself. Tell Kevin,
Go
Friends and
poke.
Seinfeld suck.
Go poke daddy.
I don't know if I'd phrase it quite that way, Mike.
I know that sounds like pegging, and we don't do that.
I know what I did.
You did it on purpose, too.
Okay.
This conversation would have been so off the rails with Jessi.
That's true.
Yes, it would.
And like, this is, I feel like a thing I say every other episode. There's a lot of really big stuff that happens in this 1 hour, not even 1 hour episode.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things where I could easily have seen some of these storylines stretched out into like an 8-episode modern television series like season. Because the peace talks with Cardassia are a huge talking that really, frankly, doesn't get nearly enough attention for what it is. The
No,
plot line
'cause-
with Bareil slowly falling apart and being replaced is a really interesting kind of sci-fi fantasy aspect that definitely could have stretched out longer.
Mhm.
I mean, hell, even the Jake and Nog, it's always been the talking point of the show, but it could have also continued to go on long. But they did. They compressed a lot of it into a single episode, and it works pretty darn.
I'm thinking about the Bareil piece and just the medical aspect of it and the medical ethics of it. Is it at what point do you draw the line? And
Yeah.
I know
Mhm.
there's things out there now for medical directives and different things because at what point do you draw the line from these extreme measures?
Right. They really didn't get into the aspect of him losing some of himself for the sake of remaining technically alive
Mhm.
until well over half the episode. And that
What
to me
makes
is
you
something
human?
and that to me is something that they could have easily made a much bigger, more impactful talking point. And frankly, I feel like I know they were eager to get it over with, but I felt like they glossed over pretty hard like the Kira and Bareil relationship in this too.
Mhm.
Well, that
Yeah,
whole
but the
thing
Kira
was-
and Bareil relationship has kind of been glossed over the entire
Right.
relationship. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's been real uneven, and they've already started to shift the direction towards instead.
Okay.
yeah,
This-
because a few episodes ago when Laxwana gave everybody the STD, Kira was excited to see him, but wasn't at the same time. Even before they had been infected, there was that scene at the beginning where they're finally alone together and she's like, "Oh, I gotta go see Jessi and set everything up." And instead of being with him. And so they've been doing this for a while. But I did think that they gave her emotional scene at the end, and I thought that was the closure that it needed to be. And I
It
thought it
was
was well done.
satisfactory.
Yeah. And the fact that Odo was the one who told her initially that he had been injured and that she needed to get to the infirmary was like an additional layer of Kira and Odo. And you could see that that was what was going to happen to Bareil because of the way that they made Odo be the one to tell her.
Mm-hmm. And let's just bring this up because, well, the day we're recording this, we actually released Defiant. And let's not forget in this relationship between Kira and Bareil, what, 2 episodes ago, 3 episodes ago from where we're at? She was basically playing tonsil hockey with Thomas Riker at one point.
Yeah, it's true.
Just for you, our special friend that
And
thought it was a waste of time to bring that discussion up. Here we are.
and very willingly at the beginning of it.
Look,
She would have she would have
no, I am
done
telling
almost
you
whatever he
right
wanted.
now, if you saw Riker in person, you'd be hard pressed to not flirt with him as a natural response, okay? You won't have control over any flirting that happens in the presence of that man. But what I was going to say is it's not an STD, it's a TTD, it's a telepathically transmitted disease. That's what it was. But
It was telepathically transmitted menopause.
I do want other people's opinions about the difference in Kira's response to when she thought he was dead and then when he actually died. Because I felt like it was an interesting, almost dichotomy,
Mm-hmm.
because the initial response was she didn't seem that upset, but I don't know if that was just holding it in because it didn't seem appropriate to break down at the moment or how anyone else felt about that seeming, I don't know if I'd call it discrepancy, but difference.
So I think that was her initial response because at that point, Bareil's there, he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not the type that's going to let someone see her break down. But once Bashir brought him back, and then she basically lost him piece by piece by piece over the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the episode. I can almost liken it to you've got into people who lose people to dementia, where they call it that long goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
You've kind of got that same dynamic where she loses Bareil slowly over the course of the episode to then at the end when there's no more miracle, there's nowhere left to go. We remove the rest of his brain, he's dead or he dies this way. But either way, the end result is the same. At that point, I don't think she could keep up the front anymore. The
Yeah.
between the desperation and watching that, she just couldn't keep up the front. And that's where you get to that end scene where she's more or less having that conversation and telling him all the things that she wants to.
Yeah.
She had a chance to say goodbye to him.
Mm-hmm.
Had
Right.
the opportunity to be there with him when he died instead of coming in and saying he's not going to make it or he's dead already. And how many of us compartmentalize grief? We
Compartmentalize
don't.
stuff. Whatever are you talking about? I've never done that a day in my life.
There's no
Don't
such
ask me about packing down 25 years of shit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How many of us want everyone around us see us break down?
Right.
Who push it down and say, I will just deal with this later. And you go and you focus on the work that you need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And everything seems normal until it doesn't any longer. And that's what she was doing.
Yeah.
She did not want to accept it at the beginning. And she said, if I just go to work, I don't have to deal with this for at least a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's a slightly different read on it, I guess, than what I was going to say. And maybe it's the two sides of the same. I've definitely known who, and maybe I'm one of them. Like, you process the grief by burying your. It's not about how you're perceived by others. It's about occupying yourself void.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I thought it was interesting because, yeah, it felt strange, but at the same time, I thought it was something we don't see where the same character is showing grief in two very different ways, really. because,
it is such
the
an emotional roller
initial,
coaster for her to
yeah,
be
the
on.
initial response seemed very, I'm just gonna focus on my work. I'll process later, whatever. And then the last one in going through the stages of trying to say goodbye to someone and the final like break when you're begging, like, can't we keep them somehow? Because you don't actually want to say goodbye now that they're there and you can. And I thought it was interesting that they did show multiple aspects.
She was given no hope at the beginning
Hmm.
and then hope. And
And that's probably the worst part.
yeah,
Mhm.
He's dead. Nope, he's alive again. Well, is
Not
he
for
though?
long.
Give us a minute. We'll fix it.
we got to keep him sedated. We got to keep him high. All of his organs are
We're gonna
gonna be
lobotomize him real
transplanted.
quick here, then maybe lobotomize him again.
Right.
So yeah, it's a lot.
I want to kind of channel Prentice and talk about Cisco admitting that he was wrong about the Ferengi and how they couldn't be friends. And he often says that it's the best part of the show or one of the best relationships on the show. And to see a father be able to tell their child, I've made a mistake, I'm wrong, and I can admit that, I think is really powerful. If you grew up with a father who was never wrong, who was always right, you could not contradict, to see somebody who was kind, compassionate, who said, I'm human and I make mistakes, and this was one. I'm trying to make amends for it. And I know that I told you this. I don't want that to be the lesson that you take. What I want you to take from this is that it is okay to change. It is okay to be wrong. And it is okay to go and try to work out your difference with others.
Yep, nailed it. I think that is a beautiful part of this show, and it's not even strictly about Cisco and Ben and Jake. It's not just about father and son. It's Ben Cisco setting the ultimate example for everyone about just being a good human being and being willing to admit and own it and take the lesson that you learn about yourself to heart to carry it on to the next thing. So many grown adults can't do that to one another, friends, family, or eyes. And so he takes it that step further by making it part of his relationship with his son, setting the ultimate example for his son. And it's fantastic. And I think I kind of said this in the last episode, but I'm at least choosing to believe, if it's not really there, that we've also seen Cisco grow in his own relationship and knowledge of that. And like he's built this kind of relationship from his initial impressions of him until now. So I think, yeah, it's just really nice. It's a really uplifting aspect of the show.
It is, and I think this show more than some others in the franchise, and not that it hasn't been there, but I think this one it really starts to hit its home is the whole concept of chosen family. And I think this one leans a lot more into the relationships that the crew has with each other, with other people on the station.
Hmm.
And they lean into that rather than away from it. And I think that really shows in this one. I think that's something this particular entry in the franchise does very well.
Yeah, and I like how they've highlighted by basically having a lot of those relationships already have changed from how they were initially. We had Bashir being the hopeless puppy chasing after Dax to the two of them becoming good friends. Same thing with Bashir and Miles, kind of chasing after Miles as a hopeless puppy, but like how they initially kind of didn't like one another and then grew to be friends and then other, so on and so forth. They've kind of presented one thing and then in a very natural way morphed it into something else.
Such good friends that they sent Miles's wife off the station so they could spend more time together.
Not suspect at all.
Nope. All right. Anything else we want to cover on this episode?
I was just going to say the maturity between Jake and Nog to actually be able to have that conversation and say, look, some of these things were really different in some aspects, and I do not like the way that your culture does this. And I understand it, that it's part of your culture, but I don't think it's right. But we can find other common ground and still be friends. To see two kids doing that, it's not something that
we can't get the adults to do that.
Yeah, we can't get the adults to do.
I mean, and if you think about it, it's like Jake has the discussion with his father. His father pretty blatantly says, no, I was wrong. You were the one who was right about it. Reaffirm what you're feeling in your heart right now. And then, really, Jake kind of takes that, right? He takes that bigger man mentality of looking at how I reacted. Okay, I was kind of in the wrong about this, and I need to go make it right. And that's what he does. He follows his father's example and goes and pushes Nog into an apology.
I thought it was fun that he got Odo in on it, and then Odo just walks away and leaves him in there.
Yeah.
Because I
Let's
was
face
like,
it,
you
it
know
didn't
what?
take much to get Odo to put a Ferengi in jail.
Peak Odo.
No, but I did find that kind of funny because they like made up, they're ready to go, and they're like, "Where'd Odo go?" And he's like, "Man, I got two less people to worry about."
Pretty much.
Yeah, whatever. They'll be fine.
They
We'll
can't
get
get
him
into
later.
that much
We'll
trouble
we'll
there,
feed and
right?
water him later. Yeah.
So I think that wraps up our discussion of life support. This has been kind of a short one, but it's been a good discussion on the episode so far. Normally, how we do this is we ask our newbies for their questions and predictions. Christopher, please give us Jessi, Nicole's, Chris, and yours questions and predictions.
Okay, man, this is Barial really gonna stay dead? Like
Who's asking? Is that you or someone or one of the
I
newbies?
don't know who's asking here, but
Which
I want
voice
to
in your
know
head?
Is that the Jessi voice?
Yeah, I hope I don't have a Jessi voice
No,
in my
because she'd
head.
just say, I don't know, I got nothing.
No, her Nicole would say, "When are Kira and Odo gonna hook up now that Brile's dead?" That's them.
Well, I mean, that is the obvious question there. The obvious prediction is that Kira and Odo are going to get together now. Nicole is going to be ecstatic and going to ship them immensely, and Jessi is going to imagine what shapes Odo can form into. But the reparations that the Cardassians have agreed to pay, we have talked how Scott always called them Nazis in space. And seeing reparations makes me wonder if it's gonna totally ruin things and cause them to become batshit crazy again and put someone even worse in charge. And I don't know how that could be worse than a near genocide of the Bajorans, but how are the reparations gonna fuck up Cardassia? And then I guess if I'm gonna channel Chris, when are we gonna get more connecting into the story when I got nothing there.
I think that's it. I think that nailed it.
I think that nails it. So that gives us our questions and predictions, and I have already informed those who missed tonight's show that you were made to give their first impressions and questions and predictions. So I have shared that with the rest of our cast that was unable to attend this recording. For those of you who are enjoying listening along with us on your podcast app of choice, don't forget that we also put these out on YouTube. If you want to get access to our bullshit early, you can join our Patreon. At the $6 level and above, we actually are releasing the audio a few days ahead of time. So you're getting access, I believe, if I did it right, on Monday evening, the audio comes out on our Patreon. That's for those at the $6 and above tier. Any level tier of our Patreon also gets you access to our Discord, where most of our hosts are rather active. I think almost all of us at this point have our own little corner of Discord where we comment on things. If you're into smut, there's even a subcategory of smut now that you can go check out for some extra smutty content. Christopher has a channel that we're still not entirely certain what its point is, but they usually talk about more balls than the smut channel. So you can check that one out. We've got a corner dedicated to food porn. God knows what's happening in Nicole's corner because Lord knows we don't. And Mike, you've even got a section where people can share their questionable music tastes. Anything on the music corner, Mike? We've not really talked about yours.
There's not much to say. I sometimes the algorithm really gets me, and then I pass along the savings to you customers. So
Some of the shit that shows up in my Facebook feed because of Mike, I get like weird German stuff. I blame Mike.
Well, how do you blame me for that?
I don't know who else to blame, and I'm just gonna assume it's you.
At least, unlike some people that appear on our shows, you understand how the algorithm works and at least know where to point that you get weird random shit on your Facebook feed for your For You page.
I was gonna say, man, I tell you, like my rule of thumb when it comes to like basic internet is when you're watching videos, you do not ever, ever click the what's recommended link. Because that's how the algorithm, I'm serious. I'm actually serious about this. That's how the algorithm gets you. And that's how you go from watching a nice, normal, informative video about a topic. 3 clicks later, you're literally watching like heavily radicalized content. That's how the whole thing skews you deeply left or right and pits you against yourself and your family, fellow man.
I end up with
On the other
videos
hand,
of like a woman giving a possum a spa day.
okay, I was gonna say, now on the other hand,
Or
if
an otter.
if you like
Making a
cute
clam
animal
squirt.
videos like Emily and I, because I've started following the one about the guy that keeps a prairie dog for a pet.
Oh, the one that chirps?
Yes. Wahoo Wednesdays. I forgot the name of it.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
Anyway, or music. That's where the algorithm shines. And man, let me tell you, sometimes I start clicking links, and next thing I know, I end up watching new music from Handsome Jack, the guy that wears an alligator mask and sings polka. I don't know what to tell you. It's fantastic. Go watch it.
And then we've got our other occasional host who sees signs in Spanish on trucks and decides to Google it without using safe search. Betcha that's going to add to the algorithm, buddy.
Oh god, that's why I share certain things in our group chat. It's just really just to screw with your algorithms after you click on it.
after that explanation, what was it again? Tell us.
What, the
Show me your
Sácate las
boobs?
chichis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Show me your boobs.
Yeah.
Is that
Like,
okay? So something I have to ask then. There used to be a restaurant called Chi-Chi's.
Yes.
Any relation?
I mean, I don't.
Is
I
that
don't think
Mexican
so.
Hooters?
Chi-Chi's was not Mexican.
It definitely
Hooters.
wasn't. It was terrible food, is what it was. But they had a
Yes, it
fun
was.
pinball machine.
The
Oh,
fried
that
ice
was a
cream
good
wasn't
one.
terrible.
But I do have to admit, when he shared that, I love that we have such an archive of outtakes. We're kind of like our own little fucked up version of Hallmark here at Especially Lies. That when we had the discussion over Show Me Your Boobs, I was able to throw in a Free the Titties outtake from none other than Emily.
Yeah, and I wish I could remember why that even came out of my mouth. Who knows?
So again, we're like our own little fucked up version of Hallmark, and if you want to get access to these fun little outtakes, we do occasionally throw them into our Discord. We will get ones that are just fun enough we want to go ahead and share. We also share some behind-the-scenes content. For example, we have an episode that you've watched by now that we learned what happens when one of our hosts has an edible before we record. And let me tell you, that was an experience and a half, and we have some grade A outtake content for that. So make sure to follow along at all our socials down below. Listen to us on your podcast app of choice. As we said at the start, if you want to leave us a review, please go ahead and do that. We would really appreciate it. Hell, leave us one telling us you hate us. We'll probably read it too, except we might have Jessi do it, and you're welcome. If you get off on that sort of thing, we expect a tip for it. Until next time, I am Blake, and with me has been
Christopher.
Emily.
And Mike.
Night, y'all.
Thank you for listening to Especially the Lies, a Deep Space Nine podcast. You can find all the places to listen to and watch this podcast by searching for Especially the Lies on your podcast app or on YouTube. We want to hear from you, so join the conversation at Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review where you are listening to or watching this podcast. Especially the Lies is not affiliated with, and the podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by Paramount or any other owners of the Star Trek copyright. All clips included in this podcast are the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders. They are included here for purposes of review, and no infringement is intended.
Why have you brought me here? Show yourselves. What do you want?
The Cisco has returned to us.
He arrives with questions.
There are always questions.
Welcome back to Visiting with the Prophets. Now that we got rid of our newbie, we're going to discuss all of the questions and predictions that he seanced from our other hosts who aren't here with us this evening. Let's see what we've got. Emily, let's make this quick.
All right, the first one is, what are the implications of Kai Wynn not being up to the task of being Kai?
She doesn't realize she's not up to the task, and she's gonna have a lot more cunty things that she's gonna do that are gonna completely fuck Bajor.
She's gonna shag a Cardassian she thinks is a Bajoran.
Uh-huh.
God, I can't wait for that. Okay, they still want Kira and Odo to get together.
It's coming.
They're gonna have fun next episode, thinking it's gonna happen.
Uh-huh. Fake out.
Oh, I can't wait for that. They better show
That
up
is a
for
good
that one.
episode, though.
And then, how will reparations fuck up Cardassia? Which is actually a pretty solid question.
The reparations won't so much, but the whole treaty and everything they've signed is going to come back into play pretty quick.
Yep. Oh, I appreciate that question. Yeah, it does cause a little bit of trouble.
Uh-huh.
And does Bareil stay dead?
Yeah.
Depends. Yes, Bareil stays dead, but we do get Mirror Universe Bareil in, I believe, season 6.
I was gonna say we do see him again, but not in the way that they think. I think it's.
But yes, we get Mirror Universe Bareil. He'll be back.
Doesn't he show up again in like a orb vision or something too?
Nope.
No, really?
Nope.
Okay. All right, that's on me. I imagine that.
Yep, 6th season. He won't be back till the 6th season Resurrection.
Aptly named.
Oh, I can't wait for that because they're gonna be like, "Yay, he's gone!" And then seasons later.
And wait until we get to Shakar, where Kira has a new lover.
Yep. Oh, the amount of joy that gives me is. I should tell my therapist about that.
And on that note, I think that wraps us up for our visiting with the prophets. I think our prophet section might actually be shorter than our intro to the prophet section this time. So until we come back next week, I think we've already outroed ourselves. But I'm Blake. We've got Mike. We got Emily. Hopefully we'll have more next week. Later, y'all.
Toodles.
Bye.